Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? This time, we're heading to Dubai, a city that never ceases to amaze when it comes to architecture.
It's really pushing the boundaries, isn't it?
They're always reaching for the sky. I mean, you got the Burj Khalifa, obviously,
Right, the icon.
and soon the Burj Azizi will be the second tallest in the world. But now get this. They're about to build something called the Muraba Veil.
That's the one we're diving into today, right?
Yeah, and it's not just about height this time. This one is super slender.
Super slender.
Like imagine a skyscraper squeezed into the width of a bowling lane.
Wow,
We're talking 1,247 feet high,
that's tall.
but only 74 feet wide. This thing is practically a vertical line.
That creates some unique challenges, I'd imagine, from an engineering standpoint.
Oh, definitely. So how do they even begin to build something like this?
Well, you have to consider the wind loads. The taller it gets, the more it's affected by wind, so engineers have to come up with ways to counteract those forces.
So it's a technical marvel for sure. But what about the people actually living in this sky-high sliver? The article mentions it'll have 73 stories,
73 stories.
with 131 apartments ranging from 2 to 5 bedrooms.
So they're aiming for a blend of exclusivity and spacious living, even within these constraints.
And of course, no Dubai skyscraper would be complete without a healthy dose of luxury.
Right, they always go all out. What does the article say? Curated leisure amenities. What does that even mean?
Well, they've got a spa, a restaurant, an art gallery, a padel court, even a private movie theater. It's like they've squeezed an entire luxury lifestyle into this narrow tower.
It sounds like they're trying to create these self-contained worlds of luxury, almost like vertical resort.
Attracting a global elite.
Exactly.
And it's all happening in a prime location right by a canal and Sheikh Zayed Road, Dubai's main artery.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the design for a second. This is no ordinary skyscraper. It was designed by RCR Architects.
Oh, wow. RCR Architects.
They won the Pritzker Prize. You know architecture's highest honor.
I know them. Their work is really fascinating. They have a very distinct design philosophy, right? Very connected to place and culture.
Exactly. Rafael Aranda, one of the founding architects, has said that he wants buildings to belong to the site and the native landscape. So how does that philosophy translate into a super slender skyscraper?
Well, that's where the details get really interesting. They've incorporated a veil of stainless steel mesh that's designed to reflect the sky and create a sense of lightness.
Oh, they're playing with light and shadow.
Yeah, and the layout of the apartments is inspired by traditional Arabian houses with internal courtyards.
They're trying to balance cutting-edge design with elements that resonate with the local culture. That's pretty ambitious.
It is, especially given the engineering complexities we talked about.
Yeah, and speaking of ambitious, they're aiming to have this whole thing finished by December 2028.
2028. That's a tight timeline for a project of this scale. But it's Dubai. They're known for pushing the boundaries.
And speaking of pushing boundaries, the starting price for an apartment is $4.9 million.
Wow. So not exactly for everyone.
Definitely catering to a very specific clientele. People who can not only afford the price tag, but who also appreciate the unique lifestyle it offers. But what does this say about Dubai's broader vision? I mean, are they creating a city for everyone or just for the global elite?
That's a really interesting question, and one we should definitely explore further.
Let's dive into that right after we hear a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Muraba Veil. So we've talked about technical marvels and the luxurious amenities. But this project raises some bigger questions too, doesn't it? Like, what does this all say about Dubai's vision for the future?
Yeah, it's definitely a statement. On the surface, it's about showcasing Dubai's engineering prowess and, their ability to create these luxurious, almost fantastical structures.
It's like they're saying, look what we can do. Look how far we can push the boundaries.
Exactly. But there's another layer here, too. Dubai has transformed itself into this global hub, right, attracting investment tourism talent from all over the world.
And these architectural marvels are a big part of their brand identity.
Right, they're using architecture as a way to project this image of innovation ambition, even a touch of futurism.
They want to attract a certain type of resident and visitor.
Absolutely. People who are drawn to this vision of a city that's constantly pushing the limits of what's possible.
But it is a city in a desert environment. So is this kind of architectural ambition sustainable in the long run?
That's the big question. These super tall structures require a lot of energy to build and maintain. And then there's the issue of water consumption, especially in a region that's already facing water scarcity.
It seems like a tough balancing act. pushing architectural boundaries, but also, being mindful of the environmental impact.
Exactly. And that's a challenge not just for Dubai, but for cities all over the world that are dealing with rapid urbanization and the need for sustainable development.
So architects and urban planners have a lot to consider,
Oh, definitely. It's not just about aesthetics anymore.
right? They need to think about the long-term consequences of their designs for the environment and also the people who will live and work in these spaces.
Speaking of the people living there, the article mentioned those curated leisure amenities. We know they have a spa restaurant, a movie theater, but what makes them curated? What sets them apart?
Yeah, what makes them different from the amenities you might find in any other luxury high-rise?
Well, Dubai is all about exceeding expectations. It's not just about having a pool or a gym. It's about creating these truly unique and memorable experiences.
So less standard gym and more like state-of-the-art fitness center with personalized trainers and panoramic views.
Exactly. It's about anticipating the desires of a very discerning clientele and offering them something they can't find anywhere else.
But could this create a disconnect from the rest of the city?
Possibly. I mean, when you have these enclaves of extreme wealth, it can lead to social stratification.
Like a city within a city?
In a way, yes, which raises questions about social equity and access to resources.
Yeah, Dubai has a large and diverse population,
Yeah,
but these ultra-luxury developments seem to cater to a very specific segment.
that's true. So it brings us back to that question of Dubai's vision. Are they building a city for everyone or just for the global elite?
It's a complex issue with no easy answers, but it's definitely something to think about as we see more and more cities around the world competing for attention and investment.
Absolutely. The choices they make today will have a big impact on their future.
So we've talked about the technical side, the luxury, the potential social implications, but what would it actually be like to live in such a slender space?
That's a really intriguing question, especially from a psychological perspective.
I mean, imagine waking up every morning in an apartment that's practically suspended in midair.
It would be a unique perspective on the city for sure, but it also raises some questions about how we perceive space, how our surroundings affect our well-being.
Would living in such a narrow vertical environment make you feel confined? Or would it be liberating being so high above everything?
You know, there's a growing field of study called architectural psychology that looks at how the built environment impacts our mood behavior, even our cognitive function.
Interesting. So the design of the spaces we inhabit actually has an impact on us. Makes sense. But let's get back to the Muraba Vale specifically. It's not just a feat of engineering, it's also a design statement.
Right, and that statement seems to be about more than just height or slenderness.
They've incorporated this veil of stainless steel mesh to reflect the sky and give it a feeling of lightness.
Interesting choice of material. Stainless steel is really durable, resistant to corrosion, which is important in that climate.
But it also has that reflective quality, creating a sense of movement and change depending on the light.
Almost like the building itself becomes a canvas for the play of light and shadow.
And then there's the interior design, creating a sense of tranquility and connection to nature.
They're using natural materials and incorporating traditional Arabian architecture elements like courtyards and fountains.
Trying to create a sense of calm within this vertical oasis. It's fascinating how they're balancing these contrasting ideas, the cutting-edge technology of the skyscraper, with the timeless principles of biophilic design.
Yeah, it shows that architecture is about more than just form and function. It's about creating spaces that nourish our souls as well as our bodies.
And that brings us to what makes this project so intriguing. It's not just about pushing the limits of what's technically possible. It's about exploring the relationship between architecture, human experience, and the future of our cities.
Yeah, and the Muraba Vale is a really fascinating example of how that conversation is taking shape.
So as we marvel at Dubai's architectural ambitions,
Hmm.
it's worth asking ourselves, what kind of future are we building? What role will architecture play in shaping that future?
These are questions that deserve careful consideration from all of us, not just architects and urban planners.
We'll be right back after a quick break to wrap up our deep dive into the Muraba Vale.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Muraba Vale. We've been talking about this incredibly slender skyscraper in Dubai, a real architectural marvel.
And it really gets you thinking about bigger issues like urban development,
Yeah.
sustainability, social dynamics.
Architecture isn't just about creating these beautiful buildings. It's about shaping the way we live, how we work, how we interact with our surroundings.
Definitely. And the Muraba Vale, with all its ambition and innovation, kind of gives us a glimpse into what the future of cities might look like.
So thinking about the future, Dubai has this reputation for always pushing the limits, right?
Yeah.
bigger, taller, more luxurious. But is there a point where that pursuit of architectural superlatives just goes too far?
It's a good question. Is there a tipping point where the desire for extravagance becomes unsustainable, environmentally or socially?
We did talk about the potential downsides, the energy consumption, the social stratification. Right, but you also have to remember that Dubai is investing a lot in renewable energy and sustainable technologies. They know they need to balance those ambitions with environmental responsibility.
So maybe the Muraba Veil isn't just a symbol of Dubai's ambition, but also a kind of test case for sustainable luxury in a rapidly growing urban world.
That's a really interesting perspective, like a living laboratory for new approaches to design, construction, urban living.
And it's definitely generating a lot of buzz, not just in the architectural world, but among people who are thinking about the future of cities.
Because at the end of the day, the questions Dubai is facing are questions we're all facing. How do we create cities that are vibrant and sustainable? How do we balance the needs of a diverse population?
How do we use architecture to improve our lives and connect us with our surroundings?
These are big questions, no easy answers. But by exploring projects like this one, we can start to think about new possibilities, challenge our assumptions about what's possible.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought. Imagine yourself standing at the foot of the Muraba Veil, looking up at this incredibly slender structure. What do you feel?
Awe and wonder, or maybe a sense of excess and inequality.
Maybe a bit of both. And maybe that's the point. Architecture has this power to provoke, to challenge, to inspire. And the Muraba Veil, in all its audacious glory, is certainly doing all of that.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, keep imagining the cities of the future.
Because the choices we make today will shape the world we live in tomorrow. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.